All right. So today we have Alex Shakov, and Alex is the owner and founder of SH Consulting and based out of Warsaw, Poland. I also did a little research on you, Alex. You have a Master's of Science in Aerospace from the National Technical University of Ukraine in Kiev Polytechnic Institute. Yeah. So you guys, we have a really smart guy on the call right now. So one of the things I wanted to ask you first, you have an extensive background. You've started your company, SH Consulting, and it looked like about 2023. But you've been doing this email deliverability and helping people in different industries since about 2016?
Yeah, 2016.
Okay. What did you do prior to that with your aerospace degree in all of that?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of technology background. Aerospace engineering, that was like something I really enjoyed in the past. So we wrote a lot of coding. We did a lot of coding in terms of how to launch the rockets into the space and things like that. Yeah, so I know how to. I don't really know how to build the rocket, but I know how to build their systems that allow them to find where they have to fly to, how to navigate in space and things like that. Yeah,
do you find it really intriguing when Elon Musk can go and, like they say, take a pair of chopsticks and grab the missile and just and drop it right back down onto Earth? Is that intriguing?
Absolutely, that was impressive. Yeah,
yeah, so. Very much so. Very good. And how did your previous experiences in multiple different industries lead you into the real estate space? Because our space is like the Wild West, as you have probably figured out.
Absolutely. So actually, I started as a business development manager at the company, and we were trying to sell some kind of product. So we did a lot of like cold calls. We did a lot of like cold emailing and things like that. So our emails were going to a spam folder all the time. So I started learning these type of things. I started investigating why my emails are going to a spam folder, how to improve our email open rates, what I need to do to improve my performance and things like that. Then I realized that people who I work for, they were not really interested in making some kind of changes into their companies, into their business processes. So I decided to start working as a freelancer on the Upwork marketplace. And I was working on Upwork for a couple of years and everything was absolutely fine. I worked for Optical Cable Corporation, Shopify, Ocean Audit, and other like big companies in this in the technology sphere. And then one day I was reached out by someone with some kind of issues with email deliverability, and the name of that person was Elena Key. And she was like, hey, Alex, we're having problems with our email deliverability. We're using FollowUp Boss. Our emails are going to a spam folder. Can you help out with us with that? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So I spent not a lot, but we spent a couple of days trying to figure out why their emails are going to a spam folder, how to configure their email server and things like that. And she was like, well, Alex, we have a lot of problems in real estate industry. Would you like to try yourself in real estate? We have a lot of clients who are experiencing problems in email deliverability. Their email open rate is like 5 to 10% and things like that. And I was like, yeah, of course. And then like she's like an amazing person because she started referring all her clients directly to me. And she was like, hey, please meet Luke, please meet Brad, please meet Samantha and things like that. Alex is expert in email security and deliverability. So yeah,
fantastic.
I have all of those people. And
Elena Key she is an amazing person, as you said, and she's definitely helped me as well. And very good, helped a lot of our industry. Does a lot through FollowUp Boss, and that. I also just saw the email come out from you that you are now partnering with Ylopo to help boost Ylopo clients' email deliverability. Can you tell us a little bit about what that relationship is going to look like for people that use Ylopo?
Yeah, if you're a Ylopo client, you have a lot of listing alerts, you have a lot of like drip campaigns being sent from the Ylopo system. So they have like their own email infrastructure. Basically, it's a SendGrid infrastructure. And every single email that you send through Ylopo goes from their own email server, from their domain name. So basically what we're working on right now is we help to improve the email infrastructure, to improve the IP reputation, to improve the domain reputation, things like that, to make sure that emails are going to primary inbox folder instead of like being blocked or filtered to spam folder.
Are you doing that on the back end of Ylopo as a overall platform, not on individual agents' emails? So
yes, exactly. So we work with their leadership team, with their engineering team. We advise them on how best to proceed with some kind of IP management strategy, IP pooling, traffic segmentation, deployment, and things like that. So we help on their backend side.
Because those big platforms, there's thousands and thousands of realtors on these platforms. And if they get blacklisted, it's a bad thing. I mean, it's because it shuts down thousands of people's businesses, So if you're doing that, and what would be like one thing that you would do on the platform that is part of the tech that are you working with the server companies? Are you working with AWS and Google and all of those direct connections, or how does that work?
We have I'm from email deliverability community, so we have a lot of people in that community, so we know everyone. Like, for example, if you have any kind of problems with Microsoft deliverability, we know who we need to send the email to get our domain name delisted from their block list to improve the email deliverability. The same thing is about the Google Workspace and Google accounts. I also have an employee, and he literally the one who designed the SendGrid email infrastructure. So he had been working at SendGrid headquarters for over 10 years. He was responsible for email deliverability for Uber, Booking.com, and other big companies. So he knows everything about IP addresses, infrastructure. So this is why he's like a perfect fit for this.
So those of you that didn't hear that part, SendGrid is what he worked with. And so SendGrid is the base foundation of, like, if on your FollowUp Boss, when you send out a mass batch email of 1,000 emails going out, it's going to probably go through SendGrid, correct?
Yeah, it's like FollowUp Boss, it's Sierra Interactive, it's Curator, it's like all the big companies, Ylopo, of course.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, how do we take this down? My audience is a lot of solo agents, team leads, it's a combination. And I want to make it as easy as possible to understand, but also valuable that you can do something every day. I know that we can talk about the basics. So let's talk about the basics of, you have a CRM and you have like YvonneArnold.com is my email address. It's my domain, and everything going out of FollowUp Boss or my CRM is going to go out through that email. So from that perspective alone, what are some best practices when you're doing that kind of just solo agent? I'm going to send out a newsletter. I'm going to send out individual emails. What's the best practices around that?
So I would say there are three most important things for you to do. The first thing is you have to make sure that your domain is authenticated with sending platform. So normally this like some kind of email server configuration needs to be done. So you need to go to if you're a FollowUp Boss user, just go to your admin panel, email domain authentication page. You will find like 6 records that you need to implement in your DNS zone. Just copy them manually and put into the DNS zone. This will allow you to have your domain properly authenticated with sending email infrastructure.
Okay, and stop right there.
Yeah.
So, you go really fast, and I want to make sure that it's really clear. Okay, that's okay. It's why I'm here to moderate. So, domain authentication. This is one thing that recently many of the platforms required realtors to go in and do. A lot of realtors ignored it. And so it's in the back end of your administrative button, in your CRM, in the back end of your systems, and it says authenticate your business. Okay. That right there. And I believe that I actually called you to help me with mine, because I went to my husband, and this is real life stories, you guys. My husband's fairly techie. He's definitely not an Alex, but he's fairly techie. And he looked at it and said, I'm not touching it. Go call that guy Alex. Okay. Because you're copying, pasting IP addresses or domain NNS, what is it? NNS?
DNS
zones. Okay. You're copying those and putting them in. It was just easier for me to say, Alex, help. Okay. He basically did it in about 5 minutes, you guys. And then I was covered, and I was all compliant with the platforms that I use. So that's number one, domain authentication. If you need help, then you'll get all of Alex's information at the end of this.
Okay.
And so we can go there. Number 2, go for it.
Yeah, can I mention something about like domain authentication? So here's the thing. You mentioned the regulations that took effect in February last year. And the reason of those regulations is because when you have your domain name, it's like very easy for a threat actor, like a bad actor, to connect to your domain name and start sending emails on behalf of your domain name and on behalf of your email address. So basically, it's possible to it's not possible to do with your domain name, but technically, if you will just try to utilize a domain name of anyone in this chat, in this room today, most probably it will be possible to send emails literally from their email address. And those emails will be blocked. So it's your responsibility to prove incoming email servers like gmail.com, outlook.com that you're not a scammer who just simply connected to someone's email account and started sending emails on behalf of that account. And because scammers and threat actors, they are not able to implement those DKIM, SPF, and DMARC protocols for your domain because you're the owner of that domain. So this is why if you do not have those implementations in place, like you even do not have any chance to hit the email server of your customer. So your Google Gmail inbox folder or Outlook inbox folder, they will simply reject your email and you will receive the bounce back notification, something that you mentioned before.
Yes. So we're going to get into bounce back notifications. So, because that can be a multiple combination of things that's happening to cause it to bounce. So, so that's really important, you guys. If you haven't gone through all of your domain and authentication and all of that and done it yourself, you are open to hackers and, as Alex says, bad actors who can easily hack. And it's one of the reasons why, and I'll relate it to closing an escrow or a deal. So you get in the middle of your closing company and the wiring process of the funds going into your deal to close. If you get in the middle of that, and you should never get in the middle of that, if your domain and all your emails are not secured, then you have now opened it up to where somebody can come in and grab that wire information, and now that money has gone somewhere else. So be very cautious about that.
Exactly. Well, that's a very good point.
Real life experience.
The second thing is that you have to make sure that your database is clean and it doesn't have any kind of like spam traps, invalid email addresses, and things like that.
What would be a spam track?
Yes, spam trap. So this is a very interesting thing. And my favorite example is email addresses that contain the free Gmail accounts that contain less than 6 characters in a username. And the reason for that is because when Google introduced gmail.com back in 2004, they have never allowed anyone to create an email address that contains only 5 characters in the username. So everything that's less than 6 characters is a spam trap. This email address is valid. So if you run that email address through verification software, you'll receive the result valid, safe to send. However, at the same time, this email address is managed by Google. And every single email that is being sent to that account is a signal for Google that this person, he doesn't know who exactly he sent the emails to, so probably he's a spammer or a scammer and things like that. So for example, if you have like alex@gmail.com, like this email is valid, but it's like a spam trap. Not possible. It has never been possible to create an email address like that.
So somebody signs up on your website or signs up on something that you are putting out there on an email newsletter list, and they use bob@gmail.com because they don't want you to have their real email address. Okay.
Yes.
Who would do that? I don't know, because they're not going to get anything anyway. But they just want to log in to see properties on your website. So that should be cleaned out because it's coming in and it is being attached to your back end of Sierra, your back end of FollowUp Boss in that contact. So literally you should just delete that altogether when you see them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are 2 primary reasons for that. The first reason is if you continue sending emails to spam traps, this will negatively impact your domain reputation, your sender's reputation. And the second thing, if you send emails to a spam trap, this will impact email sending infrastructure, FollowUp Boss IP address or Sierra or YLOP IP addresses. So this is why you will hurt both your own sender reputation and sender's platform reputation. And this is not something very good. I know platforms on the market, not in the real estate, but they block users who send emails to invalid email accounts and spam traps.
So I'm a big fan of cleaning your database, and you have to be inside your CRM to do that, which a lot of people don't always get inside their CRM as often as they should. And they try and put it off on an assistant or a virtual assistant to go clean my database for me. That would be something that an assistant or virtual assistant could absolutely do. If you've given the instruction, go get rid of anything that's under, 5 characters or less, 6 characters or less, because most likely they're not, and it's a Gmail account, or it's a maybe an Earthlink or an AOL even, you might have these bad emails. However, segmenting and keeping your database clean keeps that from happening. So that is a number 2 really big one. So keep the database clean and segment things.
Exactly. And number 3 is, and this is like the big mistake for everyone. So for every single company we work with, so they not always want to follow the recommendations provided. And what they do is, after the email server is fully configured, so the DKIM, SPF, DMARC, the database in place, the database is verified, they decide to send all the emails, they decide to send a newsletter to all the contacts in their database at once.
Okay, raise it. There's about 15 people on the call right now. So in the chat, just say me if you actually have done that before, where you actually go, okay, I have a clean database and I'm going to shoot out, because FollowUp Boss lets us do 10,000 emails. Yes. And we go, I'm going to pick 8,500 people. I'm going to send out this newsletter that I think is so great.
Yeah.
So what happens when we do that?
Well, as already mentioned, there are tons of different ways to connect to someone's domain name, to someone's email address. And when something like this happens, when you have a sudden spike in your email sending, is a trigger for incoming email servers that your account was probably compromised. So this is why they will immediately put all of your emails into a spam folder, and they will your domain reputation will be damaged. And you will start having all the problems with, experience a lot of problems with email deliverability. So sometimes I had the situations when the client domain reputation was recovered, so everything was great. Their emails were no longer filtered into a spam folder, and then they suddenly decided to send 10,000 emails at once. Even not 10,000, 2,000 emails at once will be enough just to put your emails back to the spam jail. So
okay, see, now we're talking about Gmail or email jail. So let's start there with, how does somebody get out of email jail? How do we clean up? Or is it sometimes so bad that you just have to relinquish that email address, domain, and start fresh?
It's highly not recommended to start using a new domain name. And the reason for this is security gain. So let's imagine that all the time you receive the emails from my email address, like theshcompany.com, from my domain name, right? And then suddenly I decide to send the email to you from theshcompany.net, for example. So this domain is very similar to the original one. However, it's a little bit different. And today it's very easy for anyone to go to GoDaddy and to register the very similar domain name to yours and start sending emails like fake emails to your clients, your partners, and things like that. And those emails will likely be filtered into a spam folder because they look very similar to yours, but they are not coming from your domain name.
So keep what you have and then work to clean it up.
Yes, exactly. And this process can be very difficult. So you probably sometimes will need 2 to 3 months of time to recover your domain reputation, your sender reputation, to recover your IP addresses. So everything depends on how huge your problem is. So if that's only about the domain reputation, probably 3 to 4 weeks will be enough. However, if your IP address is, let's imagine that you have your own SendGrid account with a dedicated IP address, and if your IP address is blacklisted, you will definitely have to reach out to blacklist providers, request delisting. You'll need to work with them, proving that you're a legitimate sender, showing some kind of business-related information to prove.
So literally, you go to a blacklist provider that basically has you on the list, and you ask them to remove you from that blacklist. And what do you usually have to do to prove Like you have to penance, right? You have to say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, forgive me for I have sinned. So what do you have to do?
Something like this. So normally depends on which list your IP address is in. So you can be in the fish abuse list, or you can be in the spammers list and things like that. So you just have to prove. So if you're in the fish abuse list, and if your IP address was used by threat actors to distribute phishing emails, you need to make some kind of security improvements on your email server. And then you can reach out to blacklist provider and tell them, hey, I implemented all the security measures I needed to have to close that vulnerability on my IP address, on my infrastructure. And they were like, okay, we see some kind of improvement. So probably you're in a good place right now. We can delist your IP address.
And then do you have to, when you go back, once you get delisted, now do you go back and you gradually start to email smaller chunks of that email database?
Exactly. So every single provider, they have their own threshold in terms of the number of emails that you can send. For example, when it comes to Gmail users, you can only send like 50, no more than 50 emails on the day one. If you send like, let's imagine 70 emails to the Gmail users on the first day, most probably your emails will go to a spam folder. So you have to start small.
So now you're back in jail again.
Yeah, for sure. Because you have to start small and you have to start with the most engaged leads in your database. So we recently migrated our email infrastructure from one provider to another. And we also started small with like 15 emails on the first day. Then we sent like 25 emails, 45 emails, and things like that. So normally the best possible recommendation, and this is a safe strategy for everyone, is to increase your email sending volume gradually by 30% every day. You can sometimes.
So he said like 15, and I thought he was saying 50. So it's 15 and then 25 and then 35 or 450.
So I started with 15. However, the threshold for the first campaign is 50.
Okay, got it.
But you have to definitely start small. So you would like to include like 15 emails from Gmail users, 15 emails from Yahoo users, 15 from Outlook users, and just send your first newsletter.
So it is actually the person you're sending it to's email that is more important than. Yeah. So that's why if you just start with 15 and then go up to 25 and then go up to 50, it can be a combination of all those email addresses that you have in your database. So you're not actually having to segment them into Yahoo and Gmail users and that.
Yeah. Exactly, that's true. However, it's a very good practice to segment. And the reason for that is because every single provider, like whether it's a Gmail or Outlook or Apple, Microsoft, they have some kind of different spam filtering rules in place. So if you send emails to the Gmail users, you can just have slightly different email template compared to the one that you would like to send to the Microsoft users, to the Outlook users. So this is why email deliverability is so difficult, because you need to always be involved. You have to build your templates. You have to make sure you don't have any kind of like spam triggers, that you have like your database clean and things like that. So it's like,
okay, this takes me into, because my brain is like going, oh my God. I mean, is anybody else saying, okay, I was just getting good at segmenting my past clients with my like seller leads. And now I've got to segment by email address. How do I even know? So is this why we probably should be sending bigger bulk emails outside of our FollowUp Boss, like in a MailChimp or a Constant Contact, a Flowdesk, a Kit, something like that?
No, not really. So you can definitely continue sending FollowUp Boss, and that's a good place to send your emails from, because FollowUp Boss, they utilize SendGrid infrastructure, and this is one of the most healthiest infrastructure on the market. I'm not a fan of MailChimp. I know the guys from their like engineering department, deliverability department, and they are working hard to improve their assistant. However, they still sometimes have some kind of problems with infrastructures and things like that. So because this is one of the largest platform in the world, so we have like millions, so like probably even billions emails being sent every day through MailChimp. So it's like a very complex process for them to manage that infrastructure.
So we just had this conversation, and actually I said I'm here at the Tom Ferry headquarters in Orange County, and we're doing, Patrick Ferry's doing a appointment setting game, and he had everybody in the conference room, and Patrick was talking about what you send people, right? So the newsletter that's boring, that is not compelling, and everybody is either marking it as spam, unsubscribing it, or it's bouncing, is probably the very beginning of the problem. I would think it needs to be something that is compelling, that's causing somebody to want to get your information. So we have to do a better job in the industry of putting together content that we're sending out that isn't boring and isn't spammable, right? So with that being said, as we get better at that, and you're sending it out through a CRM, whether it's the back end of Sierra Interactive, it's FollowUp Boss, it's Boomtown, it's KV Core, it's any of these products, size and length of email, is that a matter? Does that matter to get the deliverability of something?
Yes, that's absolutely important to have your email short. And the reason for that is because every email has its own size. So you put some kind of links, pictures, you put some kind of graphics in your emails, and this creates some kind of size for them. And if your email has more than 103 kilobytes of size, this will make it impossible for Gmail to open, Origin. So it will not be possible for Gmail account that receives your emails to open your emails at once. So your message will be clipped. When your message is clipped, probably some of you have ever seen something like this on your inbox, one message clip notification. Your email tracking pixel, which is always in the email footer under your signature, will be hidden. And this will lead you wouldn't able to know who exactly opened your emails, because email tracking pixel will never be activated. So this is why if you have your emails short and make sense?
Yeah, so is the system on the other end we're sending to opening that email and checking it before the consumer even ever sees it?
Yes, everything is about email tracking pixel. So when you send emails to someone, how you can know whether someone opened your email or not. There is an email tracking pixel that has a size of 1-to-1 pixel, and this is like a transparent image that sends a signal to your provider, to FollowUp Boss or to MailChimp, that your email was opened, just because the email tracking pixel is being activated. If you send a large email, a huge email, with thousands words, for example, to someone else, your email will not be possible for incoming email server to render your email at once. So it will be shown, just a half of the email will be shown. And this will lead to email tracking pixel will be hidden. And this will lead, so it will make it impossible for your system to track whether your email was opened or not.
So moral of the story is all those text emails, like the ones that just have text, no pictures, no emojis, and nothing like that, nothing major. The ones that we think as realtors that are boring, okay, because we always want to make all of our emails so beautiful, are the best ones to get delivered.
Yeah, plain text emails. This is the type of emails that I always send to my clients. So I don't have fancy newsletters and things like that, because they always have the best possible performance.
Best possible opening. Okay, let's talk about something as easy as a subject line. So I learned this recently, I think, listening to you when you were on one of the other events. Exclamation points, emojis, all those kinds of things can trigger a spam issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's even if you have all caps in your subject line, this is a very big problem, because it's like a scammer's technique to send emails all caps with some kind of emojis and things like that. So you definitely don't want to use them. But the most important thing about subject lines is to make sure that people recognize who you are. Because if you just send emails to someone and they receive your email and they cannot figure out who this email came from, they will most probably mark that email as spam. So you definitely need to work hard to make sure that people recognize who you are based on the profile picture on your email account, based on the name of your email address, based on the subject line, and based on the first sentence in your email.
I see that a lot, because I get a lot of emails from real estate agents, and it's coming from, the name of the person's coming from, it's nobody I know, and I have to go look at it, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And it's their business address, or it's their name of their something, right? And doesn't tell me it's not Yvonne Arnold, sending me an email.
Exactly. So what happens very often, especially when it comes to larger companies, so we have a broker owner, and everyone knows their name, so their database, they know who this person is and things like that. And he says, hey, my virtual assistant or some kind of realtor, can you please send emails to my list of leads? We would like to offer them something. And those people, they cannot recognize who exactly this email came from because they don't recognize the name of the realtor. So, and this increases chances of those people who receive those emails to manually mark those emails as spam. And this is a very big problem because current spam report complaints rate threshold is 0.2%, meaning if you send like 1,000 emails and if more than 2 people manually mark your email as spam, this will drag your domain reputation down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can marking somebody spam affect me? Like if I'm marking people as spam, will that affect my email as well?
No, it doesn't really measure. But for you, so if you don't really want to continue receiving emails from that company, you definitely want to mark them as spam. However, my recommendation, just because I'm like email deliverability expert, I know how difficult it is to recover someone's reputation. I will always recommend you unsubscribe. Yeah.
Let's talk about bouncing. So I did not realize until, I don't know when I figured this out. Somebody had told me because I was like, what does bounce mean? And bouncing can happen for a lot of different reasons. It doesn't mean that the email address is bad. Sometimes it means maybe their email server is down or it's full, it's not receiving any. So what do we do with those? Instead of just deleting them out of our system because we think they're bad emails, what do you suggest on bounces?
So you technically have 2 different bounces emails. The first type is hard bounces, and the second type is soft bounces. Hard bounces means that email address does not exist. For example, you have someone who'd been working at IBM company and they changed the company. Right now they are working at Microsoft, so the email address with IBM.com is no longer valid. So you don't really want to continue sending emails to that email address because every time when you send emails to the bounced email account, this damages your domain reputation and your sender's reputation. So you will want to remove those invalid email accounts from your database.
Does systems like the tech platforms that we use in real estate, do they designate between the two? Or are they just putting everything in, like I refer to FollowUp Boss because that's what I use, orange. If it's in orange, then all of a sudden I'm not able to, it won't send out from there anymore.
Yes, hard bounces, they normally FollowUp Boss, so they utilize SendGrid on the back end. And SendGrid, when the email is a hard bounce, they will never have an attempt to send the email again to that contact. However, we also have soft bounces, and soft bounces mean that your email cannot be delivered because incoming email server does not want to accept your email. So the Gmail account or Outlook or iCloud account, they don't really want to accept your email, and you have to figure out what is the reason for that. Sometimes, as you mentioned, like email account is full and cannot receive your emails anymore. What this means? This means that person who this email address belongs to no longer checks their emails that they receive. The second reason is IP reputation. It can be your sender's reputation. It can be like a lot of different reasons. So you first have to figure out what was the reason of your email being bounced, whether it was invalid email account or it was like soft bounced emails, and then you will have to work on that. Most often this is like IP reputation problem. So you will need to just delist your IP from the block list or anything like that.
Very good. Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions. Does anybody have a specific question? You can write it in the chat, or you can just open up your mute and ask Alex direct. Any specific?
Hi, Yvonne. It's me, Tony Farah from the Twin Cities. Thank you so much for putting this together. Appreciate it.
Hi, Tony. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And Alex, thank you. My brain is just going in like 360 degrees. So I'm definitely not a tech savvy. For someone like me, I just love real estate. I love to have conversation with people. That's our job is, you know, and anything tech related, I just outsource because I really don't have the time to spend to navigate through. But my overall question based on what I listened to you is, how do we audit? How do we know? You know, what are the tools out there that we could just say, can we audit? You know, I use Moxie through my broker. And, you know, I get a decent open rate. I'd say 10 to 12%. Sometimes it spikes up to like 23%, but sometimes it's in the single digits. But there's a difference between an open rate and a click rate. And that's where I'm like, okay, it's delivered. That's on to the next one. So and I'm not sure if anybody has similar situations, but
Everyone.
yeah. How do we audit this? And because we definitely want to improve on our open rate, because that would increase the click rate, and because we're sending something of value every week, and
Yep, absolutely. So my favorite tool is Google Postmaster. So it's just a basic website, postmaster.google.com. And this allows you to know the system. And this is a system that is free of charge, so you don't have to pay anything for that. This system belongs to Google. And they tell you what your domain reputation is, what are delivery errors, if you have problems with your IP address or not. They show your sender authentication settings and things like that. So this is the very first tool that I usually check when I do some kind of audit for all of our clients.
Alex, how do you do that? You just go to postmaster.google.com and you put your what in? I mean, how does it?
Yeah, so you'll go to postmaster.google.com. You'll have to connect your domain name. If you're a Google Workspace owner, I mean, if you have a business email address with Gmail and you utilize your administrator account to go to the Google Workspace, you don't need to make any additional implementations to access the data. However, if you'd like to access the data from your personal Gmail account, for example, you'll need to implement the simple TXT record in your DNS zone, in your email server, in your GoDaddy account or Namecheap account, or to send it to Sierra Interactive.
And it walks you through the process, and then it scans your domain and determines what it gives you kind of a grade. Is that how it does it?
Yeah, it shows you whether you have any kind of problems with your unsubscribed links, with your domain reputation, spam complaints rate. It even shows you the percentage of people that manually mark your email as spam. It shows you the thresholds and things like that. So you will definitely get a lot of knowledge about your reputation and your deliverability by taking a look at that system. And another tool that I use is a DMARC monitoring tool. So the DMARC, this is like an email security protocol, and this allows you to have a better understanding about what's going on with your emails on the other side. Every time, and this is a regulation in the email industry, every time when you send email to someone, that server, Google server, Microsoft, Apple, Yahoo, they have to generate the report about what happened with that email on their end, and they send that report back to you next day. And you have an ability to analyze that report and to read what happened to your email, whether it passed DKIM and SPF or not. What was the number of emails you sent to that email server, and things like that. So this is
so that's DMARC, DEMARC.
Yes, DMARC record.
Record. Okay. And so that's interesting. Is that how you do it? DMARC record?
DMARC.
DMARC. Okay, ARC. Got it.
Yeah.
DMARC, the letter D.
But
okay.
This is a little bit technology thing, because you have to implement when you build this policy, you have to implement this in your DNS zone, in your GoDaddy account, and you have to include the email address you would like to receive the reports to. So if you put your own email address, you'll be receiving probably a few hundreds emails every day. If it depends on your email sending volume, but if you send 2,000 emails every day, you'll likely be receiving probably 1 to 200 emails with reports about what happened to those emails. And you will need to analyze those reports. So it's time consuming.
Questions? I have a question. So we have a lot of teams that have, Susie at YvonneArnold.com, Joey at YvonneArnold.com. So they have access to the back end of the systems, of the tech platforms. So they have a seat in the platform. Should those agents individually be allowed to batch email and send large emails out, numbers of emails?
So that's a great question. And I know, so we work with largest brokerage companies in the industry. So we work with Gary Ashton, Daniel Beer, Kyle Whistle, and things like that. And so the problem is that their agents are allowed to send emails from their domain name, batch newsletters. And sometimes those agents, they simply go to a third-party provider, they purchase a list of lists, they don't do any kind of verification, cleanup, and they just simply send emails. And their sending practices can negatively affect the reputation of the brokerage domain name. This is why we always recommend to move the agent's newsletters away from the brokerage domain name. Just ask them to connect their own domain names, their own email accounts. It's possible to do with FollowUp Boss, and just allow them to send emails from their own accounts. This will allow to prevent your domain reputation being damaged by sender practices of your agents.
And as a coach and somebody who gets involved in that, I would go, just don't let it happen. Like, don't allow the agents they can do individual emails from the back end. They can text, they can call, they can do anything they want on the back end of those systems, but don't let them do mass emails if they want to. Or really, to be honest, the marketing department, if you have a team like that, should be doing that for them and sending that out, as well as if they want to, like you said, Alex, have them go get their own maybe MailChimp account or whatever. And if they want to send email blasts, they can do it all day long on their own domain.
Yes, absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. And starting a new domain, you talked about that, easing it in, warming it up. It's interesting. One of the things that got brought up to me about Fello, and those of you that know what Fello is the seller lead source platform out there. It's a fairly new one that's in the industry. And they have a very slow onboarding process. And nobody understands it. So there's a miscommunication. And a lot of agents go, I've had this Fello product for 6 months and it's not really doing anything yet, And, but I think it's because they haven't communicated to the consumer, to the agent, that we have a slow drip out so that they have a higher opening rate, because it's all about those emails that are going out. In that case, what's your recommendation from that perspective? And we talked about the 15, 25, 50, and that kind of thing. How do we as agents start to learn to understand that this is a long tail email process? And what's the deliverability rate we should be looking for if we're taking that time to open it and do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the first thing that I would like to mention is that there is a huge difference between delivery rate and deliverability rate. And the difference is that delivery rate, and this is something you can see almost with every single platform. Delivery means the percentage of emails that were delivered to the incoming email server. So Gmail accepted 97% of the emails that you send, and that's good. At the same time, deliverability means the percentage of emails that hit inbox folder or spam folder or promotional folder or updates folder. So this one, deliverability and delivery are slightly different things. And you can have like 99% of delivery rate. However, at the same time, 90% of your emails can be filtered into a spam folder. So you'll basically have only 10% of deliverability rate because only 10% went to the inbox folder. So, and you don't really have to like mess up with this.
Do we have control over that?
Not really. So it's not something you're able to analyze or identify. Unfortunately, we don't have any tools on the market that allow you to know which percentage of emails were delivered to the inbox folder, to a spam folder, promotional folder, and things like that. However, you can guess this percentage based on the unsubscribe rate, spam report complaints rate, open rate, click-through rate, forwarding rate, and things like that. For example, if you send emails so, for example, unsubscribe is a positive engagement with your emails because they do not consider you as a spammer, but they just simply don't want to continue receiving emails from you. So you're not a spammer for them. So this is why they unsubscribe. When they unsubscribe, they click the link. So this is a positive engagement. If your unsubscribe rate is low, so it's like 0% all the time, this
probably not getting through.
This can raise some kind of questions. Probably all of your emails are going to a spam folder. This is why it doesn't make any sense for them to unsubscribe from emails that go to a spam folder. So
to Tony's point, don't get so caught up on the deliver rate. Get more caught up on the unsubscribe and the click-through rate, and the forward rate. So if somebody's actually sharing your email, clicking on something where you can see what they're clicking on, your website, or it's taking them here and there, then at least they're engaging.
Yeah. And open rates, of course, for sure, it's important. So normally in real estate industry, like 35% of email open rate, this is an average email open rate. You can like get up to I would say like 70 to 80% open of email open rates, but you definitely have to work hard on achieving that percentage. You need to segment your database. You need to like control who engage with your database, with your emails the most, and things like that. So
what did you say was an average 35, 40?
Yeah, 35 is average. So if you have like 35 to 40% of email open rate, you're definitely in a good place. So your emails are not going to a spam folder. So you're like average agent with average email open rate. So that's everything is good.
Paul has a question. What's the best way to keep our emails out of the Gmail promotions tab? And I think you answered that. You just really can't. You have no control over that, or can't do you?
You have no control over that. However, as long as you send emails through platforms like FollowUp Boss, MailChimp, SendGrid, there is no chance for you to keep your emails out of the promotional folder because their sending email infrastructure was designed to send marketing emails to other people. However, when you send emails directly from your Gmail account, or if you go to FollowUp Boss inbox folder and send emails from that tab, your emails will be delivered to the primary inbox folder just because Gmail designed their infrastructure for one-to-one communication with other people.
So one-to-one communication is always better in our industry. Plus, you get a better conversion rate too when you're talking to people on a one-on-one basis. So same question from Luke. He asked about kind of the same thing about the Apple email categorization.
So Apple, not really. So when you send emails to Apple users, iCloud or Mac.com users, Apple, they have a security gateways in place, and every single email that you send to Apple users is being automatically opened and the link is being automatically clicked. So this is why if you just gather the list of Apple users with iCloud.com and Mac.com email addresses, and you decide to send emails to all of those people, you have like 95% of email open rate. Just because every single email is being checked by security gateway.
So it's not the human that's actually opening it, it's the gateway that's opening it. So then really, really important to look at clicks and unsubscribes then and all of that, because otherwise you'll never know if the human actually sees it.
Exactly. So spam compliance is also important. So normally, it depends on your email sending volume, but normally you never have like 0% of spam complaints rate. It has to be like below 0.2%, and that's important to manage. However, you just definitely have to track this indicator. If you have 0, probably something goes wrong with your email.
Something's wrong with your email. Heather, you have a question? Go ahead and unmute.
Yes. Hi, Alex. Thanks so much. Very useful information. So I had been sending sort of a weekly newsletter, if you will, to people through BombBomb, and then decided to cancel BombBomb because it was way expensive. So I was going to start sending through Lofty, which is the CRM that I'm using now. Lofty allows 2 different email addresses. One, your regular email address, and then a second one that's very similar, typically to the one that you mainly use, that it'll send all of your property updates and stuff through automatically. When I'm moving those people over to Lofty, should I send through my regular email or through the secondary email? And would you still consider doing it in a slow rollout, it sounds like?
Yes, you have to use the email address that is that you normally utilize for email distribution. So the primary email address that you use for any kind of marketing activities is the one that you definitely have to use. Because if you send emails from another email address and people like common email servers, they don't receive emails from that email account very often, there is a possibility your emails will go to a spam folder. But before you do so, that you have your domain authenticated with their email infrastructure. And with Lofty, you have to go to your settings. I don't really remember, but there is a tab like email authentication or domain authentication, and you just have to go and authenticate your domain.
Okay. All right. I'll get in touch with them about that, because I understand the concept, but trying to do it with all those numbers and letters and sticking it in the DNS and the AP or whatever, I'm sitting there like, nope, not doing it.
Exactly. So that's a great segue, Karen, or Heather, into finding out. Is there any other questions though before I do that? So, okay, very good.
Yes.
You work for big companies like Ylopo. You work for big brokerages, and then there's the solo agent. Can we afford you? Is it something that is untouchable for us, or is this something that you have people that can help in your company, SH Consulting, that can actually hire?
Yeah, definitely. So we offer our solutions to technology companies, large brokers, and solo agents as well. And everyone can actually afford us because our services are not like extremely expensive when it comes to small agents, small teams, and solo agents. However, it depends on how you think about this thing. So you can either hire someone like email marketer for the full-time position. You'll be paying like a couple of $1,000s per month for that to that person, or you can hire us and we'll be responsible for everything. So some people realize that and they see benefits in having us, in being us responsible for their email durability. Others don't. But the primary service that we provide to solo agents and small teams is a one-time configuration. So we help them to implement all of those DNS records in their email server, DMARC, set up monitoring tools, configure like email feedback loops and things like that. And then we provide them with email deliverability guideline that allows them to follow like 22 points that we have in that guideline. And if those points are followed, so you will find the information about how to verify your email, how to verify your database, which systems to use to analyze your email traffic, your email sending volume, and things like that. And once you do all of those steps, you can make sure your emails will not be filtered into a spam folder. So it's like primarily like a one-time fee for like small teams and solo agents. So we just have to set up their systems.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It was a big reason I brought you on here because we just went through the whole do not call issue that was going to go crazy. Yeah. And, you know, the calls and texting fall under that FTC guidelines. And then, but email falls under the canned spam. I just had somebody ask me that yesterday. They thought that the emails fell under that other part with the calls and the text. I said, no, it's why if you're doing email right, it's the win, you know, it's where the conversion happens with our clients if they're following along and you're doing a really local email. In fact, somebody said, do you want, you know, 100,000 followers on your Instagram or your TikTok or your FollowUp Boss, or would you rather have 100,000 people subscribe to your email? And the win is the 100,000 people to subscribe to your email. So we have to remember that email, just because some of us don't like it so much, that it is still like the number one platform for business conversion and consumer conversion. So you are in a great space because we need that help heavily. So if there's no other questions, oh yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, is there much of a difference in deliverability for someone that has a at Gmail versus something like Yvonne at YvonneArnold.com for something you're paying for? Is there a difference on how they go?
Yes, there is a huge difference. And right now, Google, they do not allow you to send emails from their personal Gmail accounts, automated emails. So if you send if you have your Gmail account connected to FollowUp Boss or MailChimp or any other platform, there is a possibility they will suspend your account just because of the violation of their regulations. And plus, you are not able to configure your email server as long as you send emails from the Gmail users, from the Gmail email address, because you don't have access to the gmail.com domain name. This is a domain name that is owned by Google. And when you have the domain name with your own name, like your own domain name that you purchase through GoDaddy, for example, or Namecheap or any other platform, you have an ability to configure sending platform in your email server, and this will improve your delivery.
Great question, because that's that means you're a business, so they're authenticating your actual business and making you be able to register and do that. So great question, because I know there's a lot of realtors out there still using, at gmail.com.
Yeah, that's not funny, but we receive 3 to 5 requests every month from people whose accounts are being suspended just because they send some kind of newsletters from personal Gmail accounts. That's a huge problem. Not funny.
Huge. It is a huge problem. And then when you occasionally see the Yahoo email, still it's really? You're still using a Yahoo email? So, okay, everybody. Thank you so much, Alex. This was fantastic. I appreciate you coming today. Enjoy the rest of your trip here to Southern California and the weather, and safe travels home back to Poland.